Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Sam, and I'll be doing the video for December 7th, 2020. So in today's video, I'd like to talk to you about, well, let me just briefly start by covering the indexes, just maybe 30 seconds on the indexes. So on the indexes, I was looking at SPX, and it does have idealized weekly trend. It actually just fired out of a weekly squeeze. Has perfect weekly trend underneath it as well. Daily, same thing. 130 minute, which is 3 bars per day, same thing. And the hourly, same thing on SPX. So I didn't see any issues there. It has idealized momentum, it has idealized trend structure. So there's no issues there. One thing that I do want to bring to your attention is that we are starting to push into 2.5 standard deviation upper Bollinger Bands on price across pretty much every time frame on the indexes. So is that a big deal? Not necessarily quite just yet. If being right at the upper Bollinger on the weekly, daily, 130, and hourly was a yellow light, I would say this is probably a precursor to the yellow light, if you will. So we're not there yet, but it does tell me that the upside movement is a little bit limited here in terms of the indexes. Now, there's a lot of stocks out there that look really good, but the indexes themselves, just be aware that I think there's room to about 3730, 3750, but I'm not seeing quite much more of a pattern than that. So the adjustment is typically to be trading smaller or faster as there's less meat on the chicken wing, if you will. So with that out of the way, let me show you a couple of different stocks that I came up in the room today that some of us took trades in that I think offer pretty good opportunities here. So the first one's going to be PTON. Very strong chart, trending on the weekly 21, which is exactly what I want to see. But more importantly than the weekly just gets a check. Everything there looks good. There's been this band of resistance here on PTON from 117 to 116. And you can see that we've hit it and failed and hit it and failed and hit it and failed and hit it and failed. And we're actually trying to get above it now. You also see how in the process we're putting in a higher level of prices, basically making kind of a little bit of a wedge or a triangle there. This bodes very well for a breakout. So above 117 and a quarter here on Peloton, I think this thing's going to 121 and a half, and then I think it's going to 130 and a half. This is a very nice development. You see how it went negative here, and then for almost a full month it was in a negative cycle, which created all this kind of ugly chop. You're now on the other end of that. Also, if you look at your momentum indicators, you see how after both lines broke the center, both lines stayed below the center up until very recently. So that's a developmental change. And then lastly, on the trend oscillator, you see how the red line was swooping down, and then found support and started to flatten and turn at the center. Ideal. That's exactly what you want to see. So this is a very potent combination of signals, and I think it takes Peloton higher. Again, I'm looking for 121 and a half, very short term, and then 130 and a half on a little bit longer term basis. This is a very strong chart. I think above 117 and a quarter, I think you should be buying this. We did the 115, 120 call debit spreads, and then I also put on a couple of butterflies here in Peloton to the upside. Another one that came up was Now. So we've been trading this one in the room, and it still continues to look pretty good to me. Kind of just trying to bring you some of the stuff that I think is somewhat easier, more so than things that are really explosive. Although I think this one could be maybe a combination of both as long as the indexes cooperate. So same thing here. Better trend than Peloton because this one is trading more near the highs, whereas Peloton is kind of going into that surge, if you will. But very strong weekly trend on the 8, so that just gets a big check. On the daily time frame, you're trying to make a new all-time high, and you did make a new all-time high here, but then you fell back. You had to fall back to support, which is right here at 523. Support is held, and in doing so, this setup right here, it almost looks identical to the one we just looked at on Peloton, but this is just an intraday time frame on Now. So on Now here, I think this thing's going to break out. It's showing me all the right signs. The only way it doesn't, I think, is if the indexes roll over. But I'm looking for 550 and then 555 on Now to the upside. I think you can do it with call debit spreads, put credit spreads, or butterflies at 550, 555. It makes a lot of sense to me. Let me do one more here. Try to get a good one. I'll tell you what, let's just go with this one. So, not the easiest chart here. Actually, you know what? Let me pull it back. Let me go to Netflix. Much easier chart. I said I was going to keep it easy for you guys. Let's keep it easy. I do like NVIDIA, and we did pick up some positions there, but it's not going to be the easiest chart quite just yet. So, and Netflix, however, is a little bit more advanced than that. So all of these charts are kind of going through their same kind of cycle, where they all went through kind of a down cycle, very extended kind of basing structure, and then the attempt at a breakout. Netflix, I think, is ready. Again, it looks very similar to PTON, where it went negative and then stayed negative pretty much for an entire month. And then you had nothing price action. But you see how in doing so, it's created this basing structure. And then guess what? At this point, you now actually have two upward biases to your daily squeeze. You're still in a squeeze, which is pretty phenomenal. And then all your signals that we looked at on PTON are just even stronger here on Netflix. On the back of that, which is kind of uncommon, you have a high compression weekly squeeze that's starting to do kind of a slingshot where it went negative and then is turning positive. That's extremely strong. And you got above this critical level here at 503, which is major resistance from your retracements. So on Netflix here, in the short term, I'm looking for 530, which is the 618 of that entire kind of chop zone over here. 530 should be pretty good resistance, but this honestly, this pattern takes you to about 530 to about 540, right in this zone here. And then if you measure out the full target, let's say that you're in this for a month or longer, then the full size target would take you up to 575 to 577. So basically this pattern is somewhat ideal for a retest of the previous highs. However, do respect resistance here in the interim at 530. So very, very potent combination of signals here on the daily and weekly. That's probably one of the most potent combinations I can bring you. So just keeping it easy for today. Netflix now and PTON, I think, are pretty good picks going forward. Again, just kind of going back to the beginning of the video, just to kind of touch base with that again. Be aware, though, that the indexes are near their 2.5 standard deviation upper Bollingers, which doesn't mean they have to roll over, but it does limit the upside. And it's doing that on the weekly, daily, and sub-time frames. So there's room to about 3730, 3750 on the SPX. But aside from that, again, just be really cautious up here. Doesn't mean do anything differently, just be a lot more vigilant and ready to act. Because we are so close to these levels. But a lot of these stocks, and especially three of the ones that we just brought you today, look really good for continuation here. So that's what we got for you guys. So thanks for stopping by. Feel free to check out simplertrading.com. Swing by the room if you're new. We're doing this stuff all the time. We'll send you out the trade alerts. You guys get to ask us questions, and we all get to ideally come up with really good ideas and make money together. So if that sounds like something that you'd like to do, feel free to go to simplertrading.com and check us out. All right, guys. Thanks for the time, and I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.